So excited to welcome to the show an individual, and many of you already know her name. She's become quite the icon in the real estate industry for all kinds of wonderful reasons. Her name is Linda McKissack. I'll fully introduce her here in just a minute, but today we're going to be talking about how to create a really big life, which she has done when actually the odds were stacked against her. So if you are looking for an inspirational story, a real one, in which you can say, you know what, things aren't exactly how I want them to be right now, but I'm going to look at this story and I'm going to be inspired to go create the big life that I really want. Today's episode is for you. Fired up about this. So excited you're all here and excited fully to introduce today's guest. Stay with us, folks. The big question is this: how do those of us in the real estate industry with crazy amounts of ambition, how do we think bigger than the building of our own empires? How do we simultaneously seek success and significance, income and impact? My name is Justin Stoddard, and this is the Think Bigger Real Estate Show. All right, welcome back to the Think Bigger Real Estate Show. I am your host, Justin Stoddard. Thrilled again today to bring you Linda McKissack. She's co-authored this book, Hold, which is just an absolute it's a must read for anybody that's interested in real estate investing. I learned so much from it and from listening to her training over the years. So Linda, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you. My pleasure. Happy to be here. I love all the things you're about.
So good. Thank you. So let's talk about your story because it's super inspiring. Is that there was a point in your life where you were $600,000 in debt,
Yep.
right? Fast forward to today. And thank you, by the way, for being humble enough to share the reality. Many people keep this very close to their chest and they aren't actually willing to share what life looks like now. And I think that actually takes a lot of humility to actually say, I was here when it wasn't so good. And I'm sharing this to inspire all of you that you can now be in where you're at, right? Which was a $60 million net worth, $4 million a year passive income, absolute dream life.
Yep.
Not just the income, but the autonomy because of the passive income, $4 million a year from passive income, and the impact. Now being willing to come on this show and so many others to just give back. It's so inspiring.
Yeah.
Talk to us about how that journey went. Like maybe how did it feel when you were $600,000 in debt? Did you ever wonder, like, is this going to be what life looks like for me now?
Sure. Yeah. Well, let me address something first. You said being humble enough to tell the numbers. And the reason I do that, because you do feel a little bit like, okay, I don't want anybody to think I'm bragging. But I also feel like there's so much fluff in the world and people philosophically tell you things. I want verifiable, quantitative things for myself. And so that's one of the reasons that I'm willing to do that, is because I want other people to see what's possible and, believe whatever their destiny is there. You just got to decide to keep going and not give up at any moment. So yeah, it was interesting. I always like to say in my mid-20s, I didn't even know what the word economy meant, much less whether it's a good one or a bad one. My husband, who had been in the restaurant, was in the restaurant nightclub business, began to like his Crown Royal a little bit more than he should have. He began to not want to go to bed at night. And he would eventually come clean with me to let me know that a business we had started in Dallas, a mini Dave and Buster's, if you will, we had to sell because the economy crashed in Texas in the late 80s and early 90s. And it was a pretty bad economic downturn for Texas, probably one of the worst Texas has seen. And that we needed to sell that business. And we sold it for $600,000 less than we owed against it. So literally we went to bed one night in one condition and woke up the next day in the next condition. And so I always like to say the good news about being naive and not really understanding how much money that was and what the economy means and all that stuff is it gives you a little bit of a buffer of what really was going to need to be accomplished. Right. And I always, I didn't go to college. No one in my family had ever gone to college. I had never made more than minimum wage. I was in the middle of going to college because my wonderful husband had said, hey, why don't you go to college and try to figure out, who you are and what you can do? Because I was searching and he could see I was searching. And so he was kind enough to say, hey, let's put you in school. You didn't go right away, but let's put you in school and try to figure out who you are. And so I was in the middle of doing that. And quite honestly, wasn't finding anything that I just loved. Right. And so I always like to say the beautiful thing about being in that position is you really listen to other people's answers because you don't have any. And so I've been married to Jimmy now 41 years, and we survived all of that, which is a miracle in itself. And I happened to say to him that day, which I probably haven't said another time in 41 years, but I happened to say to him that day, well, I'm a hard worker. What do you think I should do? And his answer was, well, a mentor of mine told me a long time ago, if you want to make a lot of money, real estate is the way to do it. And so I think what you should do is sell real estate. Now, I'd never even lived in a home that I owned. So selling real estate, I didn't even know what that meant, right? I'd never lived growing up in a house that was not rented. So I said, great. How do you do that? And he said, well, they'll take some of your college credits that you already have done, and then you take some more classes and you take a test. How hard can that be, right? What he omitted from the story was that he had gotten his license twice before and hated the industry. He said he was more of an entrepreneurial spirit, and he felt like, there was no direction. It was like a job, and he just wasn't into that. So thank God he left that part out of the story, right? He didn't want to taint my view of what it could be. And so I got into real estate, didn't do great right away. Back then there just wasn't any training at all. And there certainly wasn't Facebook Live to help anybody with anything. And so I only made $3,000 gross. And he let me know that was super gross because he spent 15 for me to make 3. In the wrong direction. But it's because I couldn't get my bearings. I couldn't figure out, how do you do this business? There was, less than a week training at any company you went to at the time. And so a friend of mine paid for me to go to a seminar, and that was the game changer for me. When I just saw that out in the world, there are people who have accomplished anything in the world you want to accomplish. All you got to do is figure out how to get in the room with them and then pick their brains. And so that's what I did, honestly, for forever. I still do it today. It's just been a secret weapon that I think is underutilized by most people, that I think is the way you get out of anything that you're in. You go look for the answers, because the answers that you have got you where you are. So I need some new answers, right? And so real estate turned out being a phenomenal industry for me, because I am freedom. When I got out of high school, a friend of mine did get me a job at General Telephone. And I say my soul started speaking to me at that moment, because when I would go in at 8 and get off at 5 and have 2 15-minute breaks and a lunch, I felt so trapped. I couldn't stand it. And so I always say, your soul speaks to you, but you got to listen. And so my soul was kind of tapping me on the shoulder saying, yeah, you got to have space. You got to have something else. And so I always laugh and say, so I quit that stupid job. And then I eventually got into real estate, where you go in way before 8 and get off way after 5. But you know what? It fit me. It worked. It didn't feel like the same cage I was in that 8 to 5. And so that was the beginning of my soul to say, whatever you do in life, always find freedom. And so it's just been a journey that I've had. I don't like anything that feels like a box. I don't like anything that feels that's something that could trap me up later, like money or time or opportunities or any of those things. So I kind of just got on a quest, and I started reaching for freedom in everything, whether it was my real estate business. If it began to feel a trap, I would if buyers kind of boxed me in, I'd quit working with the buyers, get someone else to do it, get sellers. If the paperwork was boxed me in, I'd get an assistant. So just always kind of, I'm just featured in a book by Dan Sullivan and Ben Hardy called 10X is Easier Than 2X. And it is so true, but yet so many people stay in the 2X, and 2X is where it's so hard and there's not much freedom. And so I realized when I had to tell him my story and to put in the book, I realized, my goodness, that's what I've done my whole life, is I've searched for ways to get freedom. And that has 10X'd my life many, many times over.
So funny story. By the way, there were so many nuggets there. So on the back of my book, which I'm going to send you when we're done, Benjamin Hardy gave a great testimonial. I'm such a fan of his. Just yesterday, I was driving back with my family from San Diego to Oregon, which, by the way, is 16 hours. It's a very long trip. And I was re-listening to his book, which is Be Your Future Self Now. And It's one of my favorite of all time. So I'm such a Benjamin Hardy fan. I'm so excited the fact that you're going to be highlighted in his book, he and Dan Sullivan's book. That's a really big deal. And it doesn't surprise me at all. So cool. Yeah, I love everything that man teaches, that those men teach, and obviously you are part of their core curriculum, which is quite an honor to have you here on our show today. You mentioned this concept of and you make it sound so simple, Linda, and it probably is way more simple than we oftentimes make it. But when agents, which I would say many right now, are maybe not having the 2023 that they had set out to have, some, right? Some are. It's at these moments that really, would you recommend that they stop overthinking and simply say, where do I want to be? Who has that information? How can I get in the room with them and learn from them and apply what they do? I mean, it sounds like that's the recipe that got you from where you're at to from where you were to where you're at now. Is that accurate? Did I oversimplify that?
Well, you're absolutely right. It's simple, but not easy. And people want simple and easy, right? Myself included. And I'm going to give a talk next week in South Florida, and they asked me to speak on, how to thrive in a shifting market. And I said, why don't I just talk about how to thrive in this business period? And let's just get off of what market it is, right? I think we get so hung up in, buyer's market, seller's market, up market, down market. I mean, there's opportunity in every single market, but the bigger question is, what do I need to do to have a big life? What do I need to do to highly achieve at a high level in this industry? And I have found in my, I guess, almost close to 40 years in this business, those things haven't changed. What's changed is we get markets that kind of confuse us a little bit and make us think that the basics and the job description of the role has changed, and it really hasn't. But I think we just need to focus on how do you build a big business, right? And one of the things, yes, I would say is you go find successful people. That's the shortest way to get there. And I'm always going to look for the shortest way to get there, right? Because time goes so fast. And I want to see how far I can become, right? I want to go as far as I can. And so that means I have to really don't waste any time, right? So if I can find shortcuts, either books like your book, Ben's books, anybody's books, I'm going to go to those. I'm going to go to the people. I'm going to go to the podcast. I'm going to go to the courses. I'm going to go to wherever I can go to find that information and do what they say to do, right? I mean, it wasn't easy for them either, but if they can do it, that's, pretty much a guarantee almost any of us can. And that's what I always try to get across to people. My husband and I both are just ordinary people that decided we want an extraordinary life. And when you decide that, you start looking for the path to make that happen.
You said something there, and I'm pretty sure you meant to say it, but I want to highlight it, which is I want to see how far I can become.
Yeah.
Oftentimes we think about things that we can do. And again, I'm referencing this book that I'm now back engaged in, and this concept that we learn in Bold and so many other places, which is be, do, have, right? To become. And I believe that one of the greatest quests of life is to become something, right? To become big, right? Big in the sense of how we can contribute to others and how we can impact the world for good. Talk to us a little bit about your journey between, obviously, real estate investing is what's put all the numbers on the scoreboard for you, right? Kind of like real estate investing. But behind all of that, I know that you have a deep passion for personal development. How have you merged those two? And how important is it that people merge those two?
Yeah. I'll hit the part about becoming first. Dan Sullivan says there's two kinds of entrepreneurs. There's the lifestyle entrepreneur that gets into the world and they make way more money than they ever thought they would make, right? That's probably all of us, right? Way more money than they ever believed or thought that they would make, probably way more than their parents and other generations. And they get to a place and then they just start looking for, other things to do. It could be community projects, and no right or wrong on either entrepreneur, by the way. And, but they even start to say the word retire, things like that. And then there's a second kind of entrepreneur that when they get to a certain level, they look up and they go, wow, I wonder what else I could achieve. Right. And so I'm wired that way, right? I guess, or maybe somewhere along the way, I decided to be that way, whatever fits that. Right. Yeah. And I was running, and one of the ways that I've made a lot of our money is recruiting. I'm a big recruiter. If I love something, I can sell anybody on it. And I don't sell anyone because you can't sell anyone, right? You can't sell sellers, buyers, agents, anybody. What I can do is help them self-discover that whatever they've expressed to me, their value gaps are. I can show them a way to get that filled. And when they know you, like you, and trust you, and believe that, then you can recruit them to whatever you're recruiting to, right? So recruiting has been a big thing my whole life. That whatever I'm working on, I can recruit to it, right? If it's investment properties, if it's my company, if it's working in my organizations, whatever it is. But anyway, so with this entrepreneur, one day I was really, really frustrated in my recruiting because I kept running into people that just said, I'm just kind of happy where I'm at. And I'm like, I'm happy everywhere I'm at. So I don't understand this. What's happy got to do with it? There's something else out there. Don't you want to at least look and see? So I reached out to Gary Keller, who's been a mentor of mine for years. And I said, gosh, I know there's an answer to this. I can't see the forest for the trees. What in the world, And he said to me the greatest thing, and it was so helpful to me because it helped me understand that this is really so true with all of us if you really look back over your life. He said, Linda, life is about becoming. And the way you become is you get up every day and you go out there and you see what else you can achieve. Sports teams don't win one Super Bowl and go back to the field and do nothing. They go back to the field and they see who else they can become. And, they always say, the real joys in the journey. I think that's what they mean, because if you took everything from me, but who I've become in the journey, that's the priceless thing right there. Right. Because at each level of accomplishment and each challenge and each big commitment you make, you become a different person. And then as you become a different person, you have more skills and more tools to help other people. Right. I mean, that's why I believe we're given everything we're given. We're not given it for punishment or anything. We're given it to, now, how can I use this and go out and serve the world? How can I use this and help other people? Right. And one of the ways that you get people to self-discover is stories that they can see themselves in, questions they can think deeply about, and experientially, what would an experience with you be like? So I think, that helped me because I needed to understand, we sometimes see through our own lens and we think everybody's just like us and they're not, right? But I realized from that day forward, I needed to go find other people who that when they achieve something, that becomes their floor and they go look for another ceiling, right? But it helped me to understand that, okay, the reason we get up and achieve everything we possibly can is because at every level you become a different person than you were before, right? You can't help but do that.
And is that the key to creating a big life, Linda? Is that what it takes, is to have that kind of continual drive of there is no destination because I've never become all that I could become?
I think it is to some degree, but I think more than anything, it's about getting rid of the things. In Ben's book that's coming out May 9th, he put in there Michelangelo, his story. The way he created David is he took away everything that wasn't David, right? And so I really see it that very same way, is because I've listened to the things along the way that are my unique abilities, the things that, I might think is super easy. Someone else might see it as hard. I've learned to watch for those things. And when something doesn't give me energy or, excite me, I'm thinking, okay, maybe there's somebody better out there that can do that. So I think it's just as much about getting rid of all the things that aren't you, that aren't helping you become you. And I think what we do sometimes is we stay stuck in the things that aren't helping us become all that we can become. And, if you can learn to get rid of those things and keep moving towards whoever it is you can become, then you have an opportunity to, I don't want to get to heaven and go, golly, I could have done what? You mean that building over there has all the blessings I could have had and I didn't go for them? I don't want that to happen.
Yeah. Yeah. I think for me anyway, a definition of hell is, you think about the word damnation, it means to be stopped, to be stuck, right? It's very kind of built in, is that like happiness, and call it heaven, right, is growth and continue progress and movement forward. Like to me, I find when I'm the most happy when I'm growing the most, not just for my own, definitely not for my own ego, but for my own growth's sake, as well as just the contribution that I can give back. And I'm sure you've experienced so many more opportunities in which you can give and contribute and lead and serve other people. The bigger your life gets, the more impact you have on other people, right? To help inspire them.
Absolutely. Well, so many things begin to happen. You begin to look for new ways to do it, which, unless you're freed up, you can't do that. I mean, if I was back to where I was selling 200 homes a year, year after year, I would be in such a box. There would be, and to keep quoting Dan, because I love him, he says, any entrepreneur too tightly scheduled can't transform. And that's so true. And that's what happens when you're in 2X instead of 10X. You're so tightly scheduled, there's no room for any transformation. There's no room for you to think or grow or do whatever, because you're so busy just handling whatever's right there in front of you. But yeah, I do believe that you get to serve at a whole different level. I talk about building wealth all the time, and our t-shirts say build wealth, change lives, leave a legacy. And I think when you begin to understand that, people have a stigma around, creating things for themselves, whether it's wealth or time or anything. And if you can learn how to turn that in such a way that you're doing something for people instead of to people, I think it frees you up a little bit more to look for those opportunities.
Well, a couple of the common threads that I hear you saying, right? Even back to like when paperwork feels like it's holding me back and I've lost freedom to that, I want to get rid of it. That's similar to the chipping away of that unnecessary rock to create the Michelangelo. And I love how you said, listen to your soul of what gives you freedom and what causes you to feel like you're trapped.
Yeah.
And to, doesn't mean that stuff doesn't have to be done, but it may not need to be done by you, right? Your soul will tell you if you're really quiet and look for the things that really excite you, that there's certain gifts inside of each one of us that we ought to pursue that path and see how much of our time we can spend doing those things that really light a fire within us, right?
Yeah. And I think there's doors that always naturally open or trying to open for you that people are scared to walk through. And I think that's when you should walk through them, right? You should say, okay, it's scary and it's a big commitment, but I'm going to go through that door and see what's there, because if you don't do that, then you stay stuck where you are, and there's just not much growth or opportunity there, really.
Yeah.
The growth comes from us making the commitments that are scary and hard, and the process we have to go through to get out of that. And when we come out the other side, if we don't get stuck in complacency, it's a beautiful place, and we just should continually go look for more of those. And most of us don't. Most of us go, "Oh God, I survived that. I'm not going to do that ever again." And we should do it over and over and over and over. As a matter of fact, as many times as you can do that, that's how you become all that you can become, because you do enough of that.
We have a mantra in our family. I've got 6 little kiddos, and one of our mantras is, I'm a stoddard and I can do hard things. I'm a stoddard and I love to do hard things. And I'm trying to, at an early age, to get this ingrained in my kids' minds, is that hard is not bad. Hard is where growth happens, and happiness is where growth happens. So therefore, don't shy away from the things that are hard. Would you agree, Linda, that in this market is such a great time to maybe get ahead of where we were, because there is resistance, because there is maybe people that are so busy, as you said, looking at a microscope through the market to say what's different this year from this past year, that if you were really to focus on your growth and the habits that drive forward, that you can really get ahead quickly in markets like this? Is that?
Yeah, I think every downturn market, I've probably gained more market share and never lost it ever. So whatever you gain, whether it's wealth or market share or whatever, in a downturn, it'll catapult you so much farther. So that's why I always just say, let's don't even focus on what the market's going. Let's just focus on what top producers and successful people do to build big businesses. And because your big business is going to fund your big life, and then let everything else just kind of be what it is. And a silly little thing that used to help me years ago, when I would get these limiting beliefs about, oh my gosh, there's the market strength, there's not much business. I just get out and drive around in my car and look at all the rooftops. And when I look at all the rooftops, I thought, okay, this is ridiculous. Or I would look at the number of sales, complete sales in my board, and say, I'm so far off from having that 100%. I got plenty of room, right? So I think you may have to, work on your mind a little bit, but there's always a way. And I think there's opportunity in everything. And you just have to learn that I'm going to be an opportunity seeker, and I'm going to find the opportunity, whatever market it is.
Yeah. And it's funny. You say that. I can genuinely feel your energy about downturn markets. My dad, who I admire greatly, he was talking similarly. He's like, I've been through enough of these. I love these markets. Like, I get so excited because everybody else is stopping or walking, and I'm just going at the same pace, maybe a little faster because I'm excited, but I just get so much further ahead during markets like these, and I can feel that same energy from you. It's fun to hear that, and I think if we all were to really internalize that and
Yep.
not be fearful or anxious, but be like, boy, now is the time where I can really get market share. Like everything's going to be fine. Go in and do the work. How much progress you can make and how much growth you can have during times like these. It's fun to hear you validate that.
Yeah, it's actually I started my business in a down market, of course, and so I think it's a blessing for the people that get to start in a down market because they don't have to undo anything. They just have to get in and say, okay, I'm in this business and I've spent all this money. Now, how do I make some money? Somebody show me.
Yeah, great point. We've got some comments here. Harris, who connected us here, he says thriving in the market, and he is. I'll tell you, love that guy. Great job, Harris. We also have some other comments here. Great info for starting in real estate. Yes, absolutely. And one of my favorites, Camian, agreeing with what we're saying. Let's talk just quickly. I know we don't have a lot of time, but obviously you've built wealth through multiple buckets in real estate, right?
Mm-hmm.
Through your own personal production, teams, brokerages,
Yep.
And also real estate investing. When there's so many different places where agents could put their energy, is there some sequential order of like build a business until it gets here and then focus? Like, how would you help people to get started and transition from one focus to the next?
Yeah. Well, I'm one of those believers that we can actually do all, because if you look at my arena, it's all real estate. Mm-hmm. Every bit of it. So it's not like I'm running over here and saying, hey, let's try the restaurant business again. No, but it's all real estate related. So I believe in the one common denominator is God only gave us 24 hours. He didn't give me 48, somebody else, 16. And so that's always helped me to think, okay, if that person got 24 hours, so did I. What are they doing in their 24 that I'm not doing? And so I think, first of all, we need to understand that. And it's not either or, it's and. So tomorrow, anybody could give me whatever they're going to do tomorrow. And I could, find ways in that same time that you could probably make more than one stream of income. And I always like to say, I create multiple streams of freedom. That's what I'm after, multiple streams of freedom, right? So I teach recruiting a lot, obviously, because that's a huge chunk of our money profit share. But I always say, look, you're just thinking I got to do either or. If you just start thinking and while I'm out looking for listings, could I be looking for houses to buy? And while I'm out learning or doing anything, could I bring an agent along with me that might either want to join my team or join my company or whatever? So I think we have to stop seeing it as and see, just see it as and, not either or. Yeah. Because I think if you stay in the real estate lane, most of what you could do, like honestly, so here's a perfect way. I would do a real estate seminar on investing. And guess what? I'm probably going to get sellers out of that, but I might even get a house, because you wouldn't believe how many houses trade between investors. So I'm going to try to do things that I can get more than one result from it. And I think everyone should kind of think like that. But to mention to what you said about when, we actually started buying our first 3 properties while we were still climbing out of the $600,000 in debt. Found the property. And here's the thing. If you just commit to the number, what's your freedom number? What do you want to do? What's the plan to get there? How many houses? I think they start showing up for you, right? Because you've decided. And I found a property instantly. My husband immediately told me we didn't have any money. We didn't have any credit. And there's no way we could do that. Go to sleep that night, wake up the next day, and a builder's name is on my brain. I always say, God gives me the answers at night. I go to sleep, hand my problem over. Some days he gives me the answer the next day, sometimes not. But anyway, so I immediately called that builder and said, would you partner with us? All I have is my commission, but would you partner with us on it? And so we bought 3 properties with him, and we were off and running. So I think there's always a way. Yeah. And you just have to find the way. You have to be willing to not accept no. You can't accept no. You just have to say, okay, there's got to be a way, and there's got to be somebody who has done it in my similar situation.
Well, and I think that the key is when you actually believe that, right? You actually believe that there is a way, then your mind opens up to the possibilities. But if you say, I can't, I'm $600,000 in debt, how am I ever going to buy rental properties? Yeah. Then all options close down, because you don't actually have the faith to believe that there's actually a way. Yeah. Right? As soon as you believe that there is, guess what? Lo and behold, they start to show up. Yeah. And you start being realistic about, okay, I'm either driving it, wearing it, living in it, eating it, something, or there's somebody out there with the money
that if I could get them to do it with me, they've got the money, so there's you just got to say, okay, if I were able to do it, what would that look like? How many ways have people done it without having money and being $600,000 in debt?
So good, Linda. I'm so grateful for your time here today. For all those that are listening, I'm going to be sending out your freedom number worksheet, which Linda has put together. She's going to send that to me. If you're not on my email list, please connect with me on social media. I'll put it on there and I'll send it out to all those that are there. And I can't wait to take a look at that, because that's really been a foundation of you setting your goals, right? Because you know what your freedom number is, which has then driven you to build the life around that. Is that accurate? I mean, is that how important this is to you?
Yeah, I think if you don't have a plan and a number, you don't get started. And honestly, we've never reset the plan. Our first plan was $250,000 coming in passively. As you can tell, we've so far surpassed that. But I think if you don't commit to the plan and kind of work it backwards to let your mind know, good Lord, that's only 20 properties free and clear in 20 years and we're there, right? I don't think if we had done that, same thing with profit share. I want to make $1 million in the profit share plan. Okay, great. What does that kind of look like? Mm-hmm. And I think then your body and your brain kind of gets to work on looking for those opportunities. So that's why I always say start with a plan. We've never redone our plan. We didn't do it to $1 million, and we didn't do it to 2 million. We didn't do it to 4 million. We just now keep working the plan, right? We just keep working in the things that we've now gotten confidence in and we've gotten credentials in, and we just keep doing more of those things. And I always believe that when you bring value to the world, you can't keep the money away. If you will just come from a place of giving and not worry so much about what you're going to get, I just don't believe it's possible to out give what you get. I just think somehow it's a law of the universe that's out there that just won't let us do it. Right. So come from contribution, worry about what you can give, not what you're going to get, and the getting will take care of itself.
Well, and I think in even using some of your own definition, right? The more that you give, the more you become, and the more you become, the more people want to come be associated with you to learn what you learn and take part in the value that you bring to the marketplace. So it's just this self-perpetuating snowball that's rolling forward.
In the how, we get stuck in the how, and I still do it today. We were working on something the other day, a project that we're going to do on another online course that we're doing, and I got stuck in the same how. I got stuck in every time, and we've written 3 courses already. So I just have to learn that isn't. Don't worry about that. Somebody else has got the how. I just got to have the ideas and the things, which is what I have, which is what my unique ability is. So I have those things. I have my life experiences. I have my failures. I have the way to get there. I just need to leave that part to the other people. It's just sometimes as entrepreneurs, we start getting stuck in the how, and we should just say who, not how, right? Mm-hmm. And Dan's last book and Ben's last book is, and Gary's taught that for years. Honestly, that's not new to anybody. It is about who, and the better we get at getting better who's, the bigger our life is going to be, right? And I think we get stuck in the how. All of us do.
Yeah, because we don't know the how, and so it stops us, right? We get paralyzed in that, as opposed to going and finding the person who can help us get through that.
Yeah, and you don't need the how. You don't need the how. Just make the decision and then start looking for what's my first step, right?
Wow, that's absolutely beautiful, Linda. One final question before we wrap up here, which is, you are a big thinker. There's no doubt about that. In fact, your favorite topic that you made me promise that we talk about is creating a big life. So perfect question for you, which is, what does Linda McKissack do to continue to be a big thinker, to continue to expand your possibilities? What does that look like for you?
Do less of the things that either drain my energy or I'm just good at, not great at, and keep peeling away to only do the few things that light me up, that I love to do, that excite me, that give me energy that I could do for the next 20 years and bring value to the world. And then just don't do any of the other things, don't get caught back into doing some of the things that actually kind of drain your energy. And I found the more successful you get, the more freedom you actually have with your time. And people think you're busy, or they think, oh gosh, you must be, I know you're so busy. Yeah, I'm busy doing the things I really like to do, but I'm not busy as I was selling 200 houses a year. I can promise you that.
Well, and you keep looking for the who, not the how, right? To where your time isn't totally absorbed and gone, because you continue to find other great talent who loves to do the stuff that you don't love to do, right? It's perfect.
Yeah.
Linda, such a pleasure. Thank you so much again for all you've contributed here with us today. And thanks for all those that have tuned in. Again, if you want access to the tool that Linda's going to provide for us, which helps you to identify your freedom number, be sure that you're on my email list. You can DM me on social if we're not, at Justin Stoddart. And I look forward to continuing to let people know. In fact, I had a friend yesterday who said, I want to get started in real estate. And I said, I have just the book for you. It was perfect. It was actually this one.
If they go to lindamckisack.com, I have a few other books that we self-published. List More, Sell More is one, because we're in a market where people have to learn to be listing agents. That's, to me, the long game of this business, is being a strong listing agent. And then Presentation Mastery for Realtors, which was our first book, which most people don't know about, because I let one person's naysayer have me not push out in the world, but the people that have read it love it. So
McKissack.com, is that right?
Yep, lindamckisack.com.
I just put it in the show notes, folks. So be sure and go to her website and get the books that have helped her to go from, again, $600,000 in debt to $60 million in net worth. Such a pleasure to spend some time with you, Linda, and such a fan of yours. Thank you for all that you've contributed. And to everybody listening here today, my final request is this: go think bigger. Thanks again, Linda, for helping us do that today, my friend.
My pleasure. And thank you for doing what you do.
You bet. Be honest, hearing good ideas is not enough. You have to apply them in order to get the results desired. If you found value in today's episode, then you're really going to love the community of big thinkers and high achievers that we are building in order to help you to apply the principles taught today. If you're not yet a member of Think Bigger Real Estate on Facebook, go sign up now.